Oh crap, I left it in there. Oh. Hey, Denise, I forgot. Her sister was named Denise. Denise Renee. What's your middle name? Yeah, but I have to wonder if it's really real.
Right.
She's interviewing for dentist jobs again.
Oh,
Morning, Chief.
Hello.
How are you?
Slow day in the hood. I'm triple booked today, so.
Yeah,
And this is the one you chose.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I will say this, guys, I've got to be done by noon. I've got too much back there to do. So if you guys, if it's
Ditto.
still going on, just know that I'll be leaving early. Yeah.
I hear they're talking more snow this weekend.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm saying yay.
Get the
Snowmobile.
snowmobiles in.
yeah.
You got some new ones. Seems like you'd like to get them out and try them out.
Yeah, but ours typically aren't used for fun, so.
Yeah, but you got to test them out. Make sure
Yeah.
everybody's
That's
certified.
right.
Supposedly Grand Rapids gonna get like a foot. I just heard on the way in. Yeah. They can have it.
Yeah.
And banana snow belt area down there, and I just always love it when they get more snow.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you ready or don't? Cheryl, are you ready? Don?
I am.
All right. We'll call this meeting to order at 9:01. Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the Whitewater Township Board in their special meeting, November 17th, 2022. Roll call when ready.
Goss, here, Beck,
Here,
Pop,
Here.
Glenn,
Here.
Falmouth is absent.
What changes to the agenda? We're missing a partner. Any conflict of interest today? And then how about public comment? Good morning. I don't see anyone on Zoom. I see a couple of people here in the Township Hall. Any public comment? None? Okay, we'll move right into the business item then. Special meeting notice. Feasibility study, township facilities and water supply. Who wants to go?
I'd like to make a motion that we end this meeting and reconvene on a different day when C2AE can actually be here to present this and to speak to any questions that we have since they are not here today. I think it's a waste of time without them here.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Roll call when ready.
Falmouth is absent. Bennett,
Yes,
Pop,
No.
Glenn,
No.
Goss, yes.
I had discussion just about.
I just
Okay.
feel like also Heidi isn't here.
No, I understand that, but
Yeah.
my thought is here, at least we can get some preliminary things out, right? I mean, lately, we've kind of struggled with how do we get our questions answered, and are they coming from the board, and are they just coming from one particular person? So my comments are very, very short and very direct.
I need a little background. I wasn't part of the board when this was put together, and so I want to understand just how this came to be. I know.
How this came into play to begin with?
No, not that it came into play. I know I was in the audience when you talked about interviewing stakeholders. I just want to understand how the process went, that we went from conceptual to a draft report to a final report, because obviously I was not on the
See, but
board.
the only way to get that is to have them standing there telling us what. it
Oh,
is.
I thought
I just
were
don't
here.
want to do, I just don't want to do this meeting twice.
You were
Yeah,
here.
I've got CA2E questions that I'm not bringing up, obviously, but I just want to understand from the board perspective, how I want to hear what was the interviews about? How did it cover? What did it cover? What were the concerns of the board members and in their input? I understand what CA2 put together, but I wanted to hear from the people that actually participated in the surveys. So I don't.
Cheryl, do you have comments to Don's questions?
Well, obviously, I talked to C2AE Dennis Jensen about the extreme needs of the clerk's office, the extreme needs of elections. I talked to them about the use that we need to do something different for a facility. We need to either add on here or we need to build a new building, possibly in combination with a fire station. Those are basically the things I talked to them about.
Could you just, and I don't need an itemized list, or anything, could you explain a little bit more what extreme means in terms of what's causing problems for you in the
Well,
clerk's office in the
well,
elections that I
Well,
don't
and-
see?
Okay, so, but let me first say, we don't have any security in this building. Anybody who walks in here can go anywhere they want to in the building. That's an issue. I think that's a really important issue. We don't have any kind of maintenance plan for this building. And we run into maintenance issues and they're not being addressed. We need a maintenance person. We approved a job description 3.5 years ago. No one's ever been hired. And that's for really all township facilities. You know, we need people to be monitoring, you know, we need a person to be monitoring whether trees have come down at the cemetery, at the township hall. We can't just rely on the chief to come over here and take care of trees every time a tree needs to be taken care of.
So
over here.
multitask.
Every time,
type of-
yeah,
Yeah,
every time the lights
multitask.
go out, chief comes over and replaces them. That's not really
Yeah.
his job.
Yeah. And also the clerk's office, we don't have secure storage. This over here, that's not secure. Anybody can drag the ladder out of the closet next to it and climb over the wall. So we don't have any secure storage. We don't have enough room, 2 people, it's very cramped in that office. We don't have enough filing cabinets. We don't have a very good customer interface where we can, I don't have a separate office. I should have a separate office. Della should have a separate office, but just talking about the clerks. For elections, we've got 2,400 voters in this township right now. We don't have enough counter space in there. We're very much crammed into there. There's nowhere to put anything else in there. Not anything. And now that the elections are over, we're going to be starting a purging process in there where we go through the file cabinets again. And we find things that are past the record retention schedules set out by the state, and we get rid of them to make room for other things that need to go in there. And as far as elections, we have, the precinct list for the November 8th election was 2,407 voters. So we've got a lot of voters. I need to talk to the Grand Traverse County Clerk. It's possible we're going to be splitting and adding a precinct over the next year or so. We don't have a space to put another precinct in this building. You can't run 2 precincts in here. So townships, generally, you can have up to 2,999 voters in a precinct, but when you don't have the building space to accommodate those voters, you have to split and have another location. You know, as far as somebody suggested in the past, well, move your precincts over to the school. Well, everybody needs to understand that's a permanent move. So you don't move a big election over to the school and have a little rinky dink election here. Those are permanent moves. Those, you don't, you know, once a voter, their polling location changes, it changes permanently until it would change permanently again. So whether we need to, some townships have other precincts in their fire stations. It's possible we could have 2 precincts in the gym over at Mill Creek School, but understand there that the schools are not all that keen on, you know, people in their building. It's a security issue for schools to have a lot of people they don't know in the building, and, you know, where are you going to route them, and, you know, separate bathroom facilities and all that. But their gym could probably work over there. But like I say, we're out of storage in the storage closet here. We have to squeeze through there to find things. We have to make sure we are only keeping what we have to keep in there. Because that's all there is room for in there is exactly what we have to keep. If we were to add another precinct, we're gonna need another tabulator. Because we will still have an AV counting board. So we will have the need of 3 tabulators. We can't store them all in here. We've got not enough space in there for that. We would need another express vote machine, at least one. And also now, especially what's going to become, and this isn't going to be dealt with before now with the passage of Proposal 2, Michigan now has early voting, which is not the same thing as absentee voting. Early voting enshrined in the Constitution now. 9 days of early voting will be required. You have to open up a precinct. A precinct requires minimum 3 people to operate it. So that means this township hall right now is going to be a precinct for 9 days ahead of the election.
And that also means you have to secure it.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
It has to be locked.
secured.
Okay.
In a-
So,
in-
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. To further, so hearing what
We don't have
you're
enough
obviously,
room to process absentee ballots here. The check-in, the issuance and check-in of absentee ballots, I generally have an election worker out here doing it because we don't have enough counter space in there to do it. We do not have enough space in here currently. We are not meeting the minimum number of voting booths per voters that is required by the state. I think it's 1 voting booth for every 80 to 100 voters or something like that. That was not that before I got here too. But anyways, so there's lots of election related things that, you know,
sure,
that
sure.
we're supposed to be.
Hear you loud and clear. So
Yeah.
to further that question to fellow board members. So when you were interviewed, and I don't know what better word to use, reviewed with C2AE representatives, were you focused in on treasurer? Were you focused in on clerk? Were you focused in on township hall or fire? Or was this, did each of you have opportunities to weigh in across the board? Or were comments developed within sections?
It was a very informal interview. Don came
Could you
in, sat
tell me a little
down
more
with
about that?
me
Okay,
and said, what are your concerns for the treasurer's area? So we went through that list of concerns. Anything else? And then, so I talked about the facility, this particular one. Anything else? So I talked about the fire station, future needs and
Yeah,
possible
I
putting
do
the
too.
buildings together, because that's been proposed in the past. So that's basically how it went. I mean, it was about a 45-minute to an hour interview. But,
okay,
I knew he was coming, so I was prepared with my
Sure.
material.
okay.
So it wasn't really a shotgun effect.
Okay.
It was, he started with focused on what your area is.
And then let it mature from there. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I
Bill, for
talked to
the-
him about other
So-
needs too.
Sure.
The maintenance thing and, just, how could we possibly do this? I don't know if anybody else suggested it, but another thing that comes up, here and there in my office is people are looking for meeting space.
Yeah.
And so we have no meeting space at all in this township for anybody to rent or be provided with. We have no building that anybody can have, and I've been called on various types of meetings. We only allow homeowners associations domiciled in the township here to meet in this building. And so there's a handful of those meetings a year, but I get calls on all kinds of other meetings, some of them that need private meeting space because they need to conduct a confidential meeting. We don't have anything here for that, of course. But this building, if we were to do another combination building, this building could become what it's called, community center. It could become a community center. The Historical Society could maybe have more access to this building. And, you know, they've got an awful lot of things back there that are in drawers and filing cabinets that no one ever sees. And so they could display more things. And also it would be a building that people could rent for small gatherings. I mean, there's no full-size kitchen here or anything like that. You would probably wouldn't be having major weddings and stuff like that type thing. But we do, I do get calls for meeting space, and we don't have it.
Okay.
Just don't have it. There's
Thank-
nothing in the township at all.
Thank you. That's very, very helpful. Ron, anything else I should know that on the process, just so I.
Sure. For me, it was wish versus want, right? And so historically, we've been very hesitant to increase millage rates. And so understanding that construction is going to be expensive, my focus was on the fire department. And so I think Chief and I actually met in combination with the C2AE representatives. And while I understand the township needs, my focus was on fire department.
And then how did the water infrastructure fold into all those conversations?
So that was a realization over many years. So this corridor, specifically the Vinton Road corridor, has had trouble selling its properties because we had poor water quality and no sewer.
And some commercial buildings need more water than a general well can provide for their fire suppression systems.
But we're not commercial here.
No, I'm talking about
The M72.
M72 is a commercial
Yes, it is.
district.
So that's actually how it got started, is how to provide water quality protection from the septic systems that are now on holding tanks, because the original systems from 1900 failed or whenever. And so that got us looking at sewer. Well, the next question was, what about development and water along the commercial corridor? And so because there's already one spur headed from the tribal water tower to the Mill Creek School, this area along the Vinton Road corridor would be prime expansion area. We could run a lateral, if you will, from the north, old M72, to the south, and supply all these people relatively inexpensively with about 1,200 feet of main per spur.
And the theory of if you build the infrastructure in an area where it's needed, you'll have more growth in your commercial area. And we could use more growth in our commercial area.
Kind of the field of dreams, build it and they will come.
Kind of a theory, yeah. Same thing with the broadband, with the sewer, with the water. If the infrastructure is there, they'll come in.
Those are along the lines that I was thinking. I just didn't want to assume. So thank you for validating that. So, okay.
And just so you know, I know Cheryl talked about what she told them during her feasibility interview. In the treasurer's office, what my concerns are is security and space. I currently share with the assessor, and sometimes when we have a planner, and my deputy. So you've got two people in the treasurer's department working in that room with the assessor, who also comes in, with the zoning administrator, and any people that come in to see him during the time we're conducting tax business. So we have a community table back there that we use. But and it is, I don't know if you've ever been in my office, but it's loaded with filing cabinets, because that's where all the assessing records are also kept. That's where Dawn's records are kept, the assessor. That's where all our records are kept to a certain point. There is, according to record retention, we are supposed to keep 7 years back, and then in some cases permanent. So we're using that closet there, and we broke the shelves in there at least once, because these boxes, as time goes on down, the requirements of what you have to keep seems to get longer and longer. So the boxes get heavier and bigger. And there is no security. With the way the room is set up, my back is to the taxpayer when they come in. And they will walk right up to me. And I may be sitting there counting thousands of dollars of cash. I actually had somebody steal cash when my back was turned one time. So that's been, my routine on that has changed, but we get park money in, and the only place to count that for deposit is right at that table. And it gets spread out, and people are coming in paying taxes and they're walking right by it. So security is a thing for me. It was a big issue for me. There is no safe back there for overnight storage. I have to put it in a file-proof 4-drawer filing cabinet. And it's got that simple lock, and you know, anything can bring those out. So if somebody breaks into this building, I have a concern about that. So having a safe would be ideal for a treasurer's office. And there's no room to put one back there, none. So those are the things that I talked to him about. Did talk to him about the age of this building. It's a historical building. We, as a board, had talked about split units to update this building for air conditioning and electrical, because as you know, the electric is in the ceiling. The heat is in the ceiling of this building, and it radiates down. So inefficient.
And window air conditioners.
Window air conditioners.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all.
My statements are, and I read this report a long time ago, I apologize. What I'm recalling is that the combined effort was between 10 and 12 million. Let's just break it down into half that, 5 million. And I'm not even trying to determine whether the township hall is more important or the fire department is more important. Doesn't matter to me. So 5 million financed at 3%, if we can get 3% these days. And I would think governmental money you can probably get for 3% is going to be about 1 mil of increased taxation to the people. And that doesn't talk about running the facility yet at all. Staff, utilities, so on and so forth. So if we were thinking potentially 2 people, we would need another 0.5 mil just to cover the staffing. That doesn't, so we're looking at 1.5 million to the public. Is that something this board is willing to do? If not, like you are, Della, I believe the meeting is a waste of time. So this is likely the most important meeting we will hold all year, quite frankly. Do we grow and tax the people? Or do we contract and figure out how to contract out our storage needs? Maybe we eliminate a couple of offices here in the township hall and just create the treasurer and the clerk's office. My work can be done remotely. So could a planner's work. So could a zoning administrator's work. And so, you know, before I spend a lot of time on this, I would like to know where the board's stomach is for increasing taxes.
No, I hate to say this.
And then
because
the last thing I want to say is that currently, give me some leeway here. We're just a little over 0.5 mil, about 5.7. So if we were going to increase 1.5 million, that's like tripling what we're asking the public to pay. That's not going to look good in any headline.
at one time, the tribe had volunteered, said they would, was planning on it, presented a plan to us for a combination town hall and fire station, ambulance bay, and that fell apart. They were gonna pay for it, we had to pay for the maintenance. That's a whole lot cheaper to our residents than us having to add 1.5 mil. I know they have moved on with other projects, but that doesn't mean in the future that they wouldn't be open to something like that. They are in our community. I would think before we just wrote something off that maybe we could approach the tribe and see how, put our toe in the water, see how warm the water is, if they're willing to start talking with us about it again. I think people's minds and thoughts are a whole lot different today than they were back in 2012. So I don't know if anybody else feels that that might be a viable option. I don't want the Taj Mahal. I want a functioning hall. I want a functioning fire department that fits all of our apparatus without having to play Jenga to get it in. I don't know if the people will stomach 1.5. Is 1.5 mils going to cover everything? Or are we looking at doing it in phases? First phase is this, second phase is this, third phase is this. Is this a long-term, within 15, 20 years plan? What are we, because we haven't talked about that. It doesn't all have to be done in one phase.
Okay, and so in my super glossed over financial question, it looked at a dollar amount of 5 million. You can spend it however you want. You can easily grab any type of financial calculator out there and run the numbers yourself. And again, if we're not willing to finance it, why are we going through the motions? That's all we're doing.
Well, to that whole thing, the whole financial thing, and that's why I really wanted the project manager here, this Eric, because he sees a lot of these projects, and he, I'm sure, has quite a bit of information about how different municipalities have financed these types of projects. For instance, probably what you would do is, yes, you would have to get, okay, how much are you going to pay a year? But can you get a bond, for instance? That's how a lot of big projects are done. You sell bonds through a bond council, and it's dependent on the interest rate that day, but you find out what the payment is, a likely payment scenarios.
That's how WMDLS was done, is through bonds.
That's exactly right, that were sold by Grand Traverse County. And so, that was all paid back over a 10-year period. Something like this, I would think, would be financed for much longer than a 10-year period, possibly even a 30-year period. Because in my opinion, whatever you would do here is going to last, is going to be functional for at least 30 years. Look at what the schools do. They bond out things all the time for new improvements, and those go on our tax bill. Now, I get it. No one wants to pay more taxes, although after the November 8th election, we're all going to be looking at higher tax bills. But, the township hasn't done a Headley override that goes in front of the voters. And all of this would have to go in front of the voters. The board can't just vote on it and lay this on the voters, of course. So you could.
We could with the fire department. We do have that authority.
Sure we do.
Well, we do, but
do,
I
we
don't
do.
think it would be wise to do that. I think if you're gonna raise the fire special assessment district by very small, a very small amount, that would be, and the township understood, the needs. I think that would be palatable, but I think for something, I think you would be looking at a bond and looking at some type of bond project. And of course, you'd have to have public hearings and all that kind of stuff. You just don't vote to go out and sell bonds without getting the community's input on it. But I really think that C2AE would have been very valuable to have them here this morning, so that they could help us understand even what other financing opportunities might be out there. It's yeah, you can throw it on the shelf if you want, but the needs aren't going to go away. None of the needs are going to go away if you just go, oh, well, that price tag's too big and we're just going to throw that on the shelf. The needs are not going to go away. They're only going to increase. And so at some point, somebody in this township, some township board is going to have to deal with the fact that, I had a document here.
Sure, just a quick question. In your synopsis that we could sell bonds, Don, who pays the bonds back? Is it the
Cit-
people of Traverse City?
No, it's citizens of Whitewater.
Okay,
Well, yeah,
So-
obviously the citizens pay the bond back.
well, you made bonds sound like it was some type of financial
Well, no,
It's
magic.
just a source of
No,
financing.
as Della mentioned, the
And usually-
WMDLS bonds were sold and the
And
deal
usually it's a
was
better
the county-
interest rate than going to a bank.
That's right.
Sure.
The county.
And all I'm saying is that it's still an increase to the
Yes.
taxpayer.
There's a bond payment, usually twice a year, there's a bond payment, just like there was with WMDLS. And one of them has the interest rolled into it, and the other one is generally just a principal payment. But just to tell you, on January 18th of this year, we had 2,369 voters, so call it 2,370 voters in this township. And we have, we've added voters, we've added, what is that, 40 voters or something since, and that's going to continue. People are moving into the township, and we are required to have an adequate location for them to participate in the voting process, every single one of
What was
those
that
people.
number again?
It was 2,369 as of January 18th. And as of November 8th, it was 2,407. So I think that we need to get more information on financing options. And I think we need to have, I appreciate you doing some calculations, but I would like to see various, whatever, I'd like to have the project person investigate some various scenarios for us and bring that information to the board, just some basic information to find out. Nobody borrows money cheaper than government. That's a fact. And so obviously we don't have the money to pay for it outright. And I do think we are cutting the conversation short if we don't get some more specifics about what it really would cost and how far you can stretch out the payment and that type of thing, because I think the fire department deserves to have this looked at seriously, and as well as for the people in the township, as well as the rest of the taxpayers deserve. We've spent money now on this facility needs study, and we don't have all the information.
And there may be infrastructure grants out there available too.
Yeah,
There's a lot of money floating around out there that C2A3 might know about that we don't.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of what ifs. This is more of a rhetorical question, but it's just, thinking, not as a board member at this moment, just as a, private citizen, that, going from roughly, a little over a half a mil, 0.57 to, let's assume for the sake of this conversation, it goes to 2 mils. I mean, the old saying, timing's everything. I mean, inflation is rampant. I mean, I don't know how much you interact with your neighbors and friends and such, but there is a lot of financial pain out there. And it is a great concern of mine that I hear everything we're saying, and I'm not, I'm still formulating a lot of opinions based on what I'm hearing, but I have a just not a very good feeling about it.
I get that.
So it's just
And along Don's line of comments there, if the pain is actually out there, and I hear similar conversations with my neighbors, how did all the proposals pass?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
One, and they all passed.
Because people don't necessarily go, oh, this is gonna cost me this much money.
Right.
Or they go, oh, it's only gonna cost me $100 a year. That's what they said here. But then they don't add up. This is 100, this is 100, this is 100. It's more. They don't. Or the other way to look at this, Don, is, depending, getting more information before we just say no is a smart idea, because what happens if we end up where the tribe says they're going to want to help? C2A3 says we've got the perfect grant for this if we can get all the documents and everything ready to submit. And then we have to only raise 0.5, but it's for a limited number of years.
Mhm.
We bring it back down after a number of years. We've done that with the fire assessment. And it works well as long as we keep to our word and we don't try to keep it up there, which you can't. It's only for a number of years
Mhm.
anyway. And maybe we let the people vote on it instead of us just trying to.
Well, I think the people would have to vote on
The
it.
people need to
Yeah.
vote on it.
They would.
So
have
we
to
would know for
vote
sure,
on it.
but I think
We can't just raise.
in order to get them to want to vote for it, we have to do our due diligence, finding other sourcing for funds.
Mhm. I'm just breaking notes.
So thinking about giving C2AE something something tangible to work on. Can you give me a list of 3 things? Financing options are one.
Phases.
Yeah. So what do you mean by that?
I
Phase
mean,
1 Township Hall, phase 2 Fire Department. Cheryl kind of thinks that, the needs are equal, and I certainly can't dispute that. Everybody needs more space today. So my question for her follow-up is timeline. So really, we're talking about 2 phases, Township Hall or Fire Department, right? So I would guess Fire Department's more expensive. I would guess Fire Department would be easier to get our neighbors to the west involved with. I don't know that they would be interested in a governmental center, but they might be.
Well, really what they talk about in this report is a combination Township Hall, Fire Department. They don't talk about adding on to this building.
Right.
And it can't be added on to the fire station over there. So, one of my questions for them was going to be, they talked about that Cram Road property for this, potential well field. Is that something that fits on the property also with a combination Township Hall and fire station? They didn't really state that in there. They said they recommended that the Township Hall and fire station go in the commercial district. So, then you've got the cost of, buying a piece of property too. So,
That to springboard off that, that's great, because I had the same question, listed here in there. On page 9, they talk about new site requirements, a site of 7.5 to 8.5 net usable acres is their forecast. Does the township own something like that I'm unaware of, or
Yes.
so we won't have to go out and purchase land on top of
We have
this.
approximately 10 acres at the intersection of Elk Lake Road and Cram Road.
So that would be on the west side,
Southeast corner.
southeast corner. Okay,
Mhm. Yeah.
so,
But
okay,
great. A previous board had been made aware of excavation issues, and because the parcel of land is boxed in by an old railroad grade. So there's going to be contamination concerns there. And then there was something to do with the slope, the negative slope away from Elk Lake Road was going to, what was it? Like
All I remember
$200,000
was-
just to
yeah,
excavate it.
$300,000 just to get it flat.
how much?
$300,000 just to get it flat, so that you could build on it.
So we really
I
didn't,
don't know if,
yeah, we really didn't do a good job there.
yeah. So, and who knows, maybe it's not that much, but there was obviously an engineering concern when
Yeah.
people were
Well, they
looking
would
at it.
have to do some work like that for a well field too,
Yeah,
so.
No,
Not-
you
not just a
wouldn't make,
building.
you wouldn't make the land flat for a well field. Well fields are typically undisturbed.
Okay, well, my question is, again, and we don't have the C2AE person here to answer it, is would that site be big enough for a combination building and this well field?
No.
And it's not stated really in the report. I know you say no, but I would like to hear it from.
I'm thinking back. I mean, this like back in 2010, so don't quote me on my memory here, but do you remember when the Taj Mahal was,
Mhm.
that's what it was dubbed, the Taj Mahal, because it was so big. That included the town hall and the fire station
No.
together.
Mm-mm.
Are you sure, Cheryl? Because
I'm
I'm pretty sure it
positive.
Yeah,
did.
I'm pretty sure it did not.
It did not. No, it was just a fire station.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was. that
Three
was
point
gonna be
one
about
million.
18,000 square feet, something like that. And there's some things that maybe, you go through these and you pare down, like I thought that the number of parking spaces for the fire department was excessive. Now, maybe that's the number of parking spaces that's required for that size of building. I don't know. But certainly doesn't seem like the fire department and the emergency services, well, the EMS needs that many parking spaces. So here again, I think there's a lot of questions that are going unanswered today because we didn't schedule this meeting around, we didn't include C2AE in the process of scheduling a meeting date. And so I think we need to reschedule a meeting date with them where we can get some of these questions answered, because I'm hearing questions come up that might generate other questions from me. And I really think we need to have them here to really explain some of the finer details of this very nicely put together report. But there's just, a lot of questions, I think, and especially on the financing, if it's even possible to go down the road of, and I get it, the taxpayers don't want to pay more, but I do get that the taxpayers want the fire truck to show up and the ambulance to show up when they call them. And I do get that when they come down here, they want to talk to people. And
They want a certain amount of
and
privacy.
some
too, when
people
they
want to
do.
come into, I get calls in my office for the zoning administrator, and they want to know what day he's going to be here. They want to talk to him in person. So I don't think you're going to get past the zoning administrator being here one day a week, or that's going to become just a remote thing. And also, you're not going to get past our deputies needing to be here too. We're required to have deputies, the clerk and the treasurer, and they need to be here where our records are, where our equipment is. And they need to be here in the case that, especially like Della can't be here or I can't be here or something. We
Our
aren't-
citizens
So-
have gotten used to having the clerk and the treasurer's office here in this building. Technically, I don't have to work out of this building. I think this township is too big for me to move my stuff to my home. And I don't have the internet anyway, which I would need to be able to conduct my business, but Cheryl could conduct her business if she wanted to out of her home.
I
But
recall.
but I'm not gonna move all these file cabinets. to
Oh,
my
no,
home.
I understand
Yeah,
that,
so
Cheryl.
we're in those every
I mean,
day.
it's not as simple as I pick this up and go home.
No.
I mean, obviously, the bridge of your internet is an issue, but I seem to recall you were at least favorable towards a software package that was cloud-based
I
that
would love-
was,
I would love
that would
but-
allow, so to Ron's point, another potential, scale option that might be something to look at. I do have a question though, in terms of, let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, we've been having, $5 million or so. If the fire station were to be relocated and rebuilt, I would sense or opinion that property, because of the way it's set up today and the utilities that are there, that it would have an appeal from a commercial standpoint to possibly sell.
I would think so.
If, as a potential offset to maybe some funding. I
and
don't
it-
know, I am not familiar
Or
with
rent.
the township's policy on asset disposition, so I don't even know if there is the position might be to hold that building and property. So I'm just asking that out because as a thought, but I don't know the ins and outs of what rules might be around that.
Well, it had been kicked around or talked about, I should say, converting that into the township hall, but there's not enough parking. You're right back to the parking issue.
Well, I'm not,
especially when it
I'm not,
comes
su-
to-
yeah, I wasn't suggesting that. I'm saying
Yeah.
it might have an alternative use to a private enterprise.
Sure.
I
And with,
think the post office would love it myself to rent it, but they're so
Yeah.
crammed in their building. It's not even
Then
fun.
they could have a bathroom.
Yeah, right. They come over and use the fire station.
Yeah.
It's an inherent design defect with all of those postal buildings because every single one of them, sometime in the winter, it freezes and they have to bring in a porta potty for them. Every single one of them. So with that contractor that got that major multi-billion dollar.
Hey, they were just following the government's plans, man. And having a couple out there ourselves that didn't work just correctly. I get it. So if we go back to a combined project like is being recommended, then we're probably closer to a $10 million project. And then we're closer to 3 mills.
Or
yeah,
we at least have some idea of what we have to work towards getting money so that we don't have to raise the millage that high. Is there a grant out there for us, Ron?
Mhm. Yeah.
That would cut down on that so that we're not closer to the 10 mil, we're closer to 1.5 mil. And how long can we push this out? How long are we going to make it to 1.5?
My calc was over a 30-year span. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I'm uncomfortable going buildings much more than 30 years, especially today when,
Oh, I
How
don't
old is
think you
this
would wanna do
building?
that.
Ron, how old is this building?
well, I
153
think
years
it
old?
was completely refurbished in what, 1991?
Completely refurbished with some very inferior things, in my opinion.
But again, the township board hired a design professional to help them through. And so, to one of my other points, we really need to have somebody to handle decisions like design for us, not a company. Well, it could be a company, I guess, but we need an independent advisor saying, hey, do you really want to put the heat in your ceiling? Do you really want to
Yeah.
do that?
There must have been some trend at that time.
I've never seen it before in my life.
It's
Never.
ridiculous. And I
You have,
swear,
chief?
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah?
swear it's right over my desk back there because I could feel it.
You feel like a little chicken going around and
And
around.
I roll
and
away
around.
like this and it's gone.
Mhm.
Roll back and it's right there. She loves it. I know.
So what do we have to do to schedule another meeting that we can
I would
get
like-
with the C2AE representative so we can get questions answered?
I would like to provide them, like I say, a list of maybe 3 things. And financing is the one I've written down. My next one was going to be timeline, but listening to Cheryl and thinking about what the report says, they are kind of leaning towards a combined facility. So I don't think the parcel size or the facility size is, I don't think we're going to be able to divide that in half, basically. So timeline, which was my second question, is kind of evaporated at this point. So is there something else that the board wishes to have C2AE?
If you're lumping financing options in with Della suggested of grants,
Mhm.
if those are, I would like to see though, I would like to see that as two buckets.
Okay.
What if we, what would, can we look at this holistically if we were trying to do this on our own? But then also look at the impact of what grants would have on there. I think that might give some context to, if it goes in front of the public, at least we have an understanding of what, your talking point, why we ended up where we did.
See, I still look at this as being in the look and see stage. We're not even planning yet. We're just information gathering stage. We're nowhere near rolling this out to the public.
Right. Oh, I wholeheartedly agree.
I mean, if we don't have all our ducks in a row and our buckets sealed up before we go to the public, that's shame on us.
My thought process on that, exactly. I couldn't agree more. I think that because we're in this planning process and as word would get out, you know how things are going to spin. And all of a sudden, we're having fact finding and general conversations. I think that having that conversation around financing or options or grants, I think helps whoever wants to get involved and pay attention, more information out there that's correct, rather than the township's going to raise you X and that rumor goes silly. And so
Part
Yeah,
of what
it's
we're
not-
doing is capital improvement planning for the next 30 years,
Yeah.
which is something this board really does need to look at.
Mhm.
That's part of what started this whole study was, where are we going to be in 30 years? And whatever we decide to do, whatever we vote to do, the next boards coming in should have a roadmap to follow. And that's part of the planning.
I would agree. Yes,
Well, I guess I don't mind Ron shooting some questions off to the guy, but I don't want to agree that that might be the only information we get. I think once he's here, we're all gonna have other questions. And I just think that a meeting maybe in January, with the holidays coming up,
I think we
would
should.
be a better idea, because from an email exchange, I don't think we're going to get the answers to all our questions.
I guess I didn't take the comments in terms of giving some feedback to CAE too. I think that financing is going to always be at the forefront of just about anybody's mind that comes in here pays to this. And I think that giving C2AE, yeah, I want them to come in and explain the project. I want them to go through it and
Yeah.
answer your questions and mine and Ron's. But I also would like to see them prepared to talk about some avenues out there on financing that maybe we haven't heard of, haven't considered, that they've been experienced with, that there's grants. I think that just, I don't want to take away from the review of the project, because I think that helps get a baseline out there for not only ourselves, but the public. But I think the financial aspect, I think, is really key, because I think that you give them this and don't talk about how it's going to get paid for, or at least options, then I think that's where problems start.
Yeah, you would never do that.
Yeah.
You
so-
would never put
so-
information out to the public and say, hey, we're thinking about building this $10 million
What do you
building
think of
here
that?
without.
Yeah, right. So that's why,
because I mean, the buck stops with everybody's wallet.
Yeah.
So, it's like on a long time ago park survey that, was done in the township, they asked, would you like to see these improvements? Yes. Would you like to have a park millage? No.
Right.
So,
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess my clarity point was, I would encourage C2AE to come in and have that as part of their presentation.
So Ron, really you said three things. We got financing, and within the financing is like co-governmental, working with the tribe. These are what I'm saying. We talked about bonds, we talked about grants, we talked about loans that we would get outside of bonds, and raising the millage, which would be a voted. And under phases of the project, what I wrote down, I don't know what this is, I want to see it by cost and by date, like timeline, would be town hall, fire station, water line infrastructure, not necessarily in that order, whatever order made better sense. But what would be number 3? Did I miss something?
I haven't recorded a number 3 yet.
No, I haven't recorded a number 3 either. And with respect to water, I just don't see that happening.
There may be separate grants out there that would be different than what we're doing
Yeah.
here, that we could.
I think,
Okay, so
like, yeah,
stick with me
even
for a
little
couple of
bit.
minutes here. You can build it, but if you don't run it, you got nothing. And so we are definitely not set up to run a water authority or a sewer authority. And what I remember from the report is that the tribe would have to come to the table with a significant improvement to their current infrastructure to supply the demands that were in this report. I just do not see that happening. So I would really ask the board to say, okay, let's eliminate water from this discussion, water and sewer at this time. I mean, that's my passion. So I hate to ask the board to do that. But on the other hand, it's not going to happen, kids. It's just not.
See, I get what you're saying, Ron, but nothing ever happens if you don't have the attitude that
Okay.
it can happen.
Right.
You got to have
We
a more of a
tried to get
positive
one,
attitude.
we tried to get 500 gallons a minute for one firm and couldn't do it. 500 gallons a minute. We tried one. It would cost the tribe nothing. Couldn't do it.
Oh, maybe there's an issue there between our relationship with them,
Well,
and that can be worked on.
well, but on this water thing, they have two, they said it can be done one of two ways. Either the township development of their own groundwater supply via wells and potential treatment, or establishing an agreement to purchase water from an existing water system, which is the tribe. So here again, I don't think we should foreclose discussing that, because I do think while maybe it wouldn't work out with the tribe, maybe they wouldn't be interested in any of that whatsoever, but there is the other option of the township having its own well field. And here again, that I believe was an ARPA thing, was it not allowed? Water, sewer, broadband, or something like that.
When do ARPA
Yeah.
funds have to be expended?
Yeah,
2026, isn't it?
there's all those other details, but and we've already decided how our ARPA funds are gonna be spent. So I'm just talking about there may be other programs out there that I just don't want to see today, we go, nope, we're not gonna do that. We don't have all the information to even make a decision on that. We really don't. We don't have information about other programs that might be available for water systems. We don't have that
'Cause
information
maybe
today.
we split the two projects.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
would-
what I'm recommending
You know,
here,
Yeah,
is that I just,
exactly.
that we
Yeah.
zero in on at least, half of this study. And I'm asking the board to consider the building more important than the water sewer.
Yeah, I agree. From my corporate strategic planning experience, we would find ourselves in this same thing. Everybody's talking about if everything's important, nothing's important, because you just can't get it all done at once. And
Right.
that leads to really just bad results and bad project management. So I think if, whatever the consensus is, if it's the township hall and the fire department, then the efforts and discussion should be solely centered around that. Not that water's not important and you shouldn't, I think you should aspire to that. But I think if that's the order, then follow and respect that order and stay on one until you get to the point where almost completion. Then you can engage your second set of plans. But if you start trying to run dual projects of this scope, we're not set up to do that. And so.
And all I'm saying is, nobody sitting here at this table knows whether there might be some funds out there that would nearly pay for all of that. And there might be something that could go on with the tribe or something, I don't know. I just hate to see us narrow down anything at this first meeting that we don't have the engineering firm here to ask them questions. And I just think we need. a
So
lot more
maybe
input from
underneath
them.
the phases of the project, we ask them to treat the water line infrastructure as a separate project altogether.
Well, it
would
is.
be, yeah.
Yeah, it's
all
already, it's
Well, I
already
mean,
that
yeah.
way. It's already that way. So I have financing bonds and
Any type of financing.
options,
Grants.
et cetera.
loans.
And then I have grants. Maybe we just leave it to number two, list
Yeah.
of two.
Okay.
I think until we hear their presentation, I'm not sure that, those have become the most obvious from this conversation. So, but I do agree with Cheryl. I think we need C2A in front of us to go through
Oh,
it. and lock in.
absolutely.
So because there's
Yeah.
other questions. So,
Yeah, and we can ask
And,
them about the water thing when they get here too.
So-
That's
Yeah.
probably might be a short discussion. I don't know, but.
So who's contacting them to reset up another date in January, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm,
Somewhere in January?
Well,
if we're going to January, should we hold back giving them
Yeah.
those dates until Heidi's here? We
Yeah,
need her
maybe.
calendar too. We
Yeah.
could just have a brief conversation at the December regular board meeting.
That's actually a
About-
pretty good idea. Yeah.
about
So,
scheduling.
Thank you. About scheduling a January meeting. Because I think I'm hearing consensus that everybody wants C2A in front of us to go through this.
So we'll bring it back in the December meeting to set a meeting sometime in January. And I think item number 3 is, what is their January calendar? How does that sound?
Yeah,
Yeah, give them give us their open dates. Great thought.
And just out of curiosity, I would stay away from our regular meetings. Are we thinking a special meeting just to discuss this topic?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we spent an hour just trying to get ourselves up, or at least me up to speed. So, which, thank you, is, you may not feel that way, but that was an hour well spent for me. So,
Excellent.
but,
It's a few heartbeats I won't get back.
but I think that's one less hour than of conversation I've got to delve into. So, okay.
So those are the 3 items I'll forward to Mr. Yantz or Eric. And I think I'll include both financing, grants, and calendar.
So I have down that it's a consensus that another meeting with C2AE present is desired, but scheduling of the meeting will await their input as to available dates. And this item will be discussed again at the December regular meeting.
Anything else? Under board comments and discussion, I got an email yesterday with respect to PrAC request to add stuff to our November 30th meeting. Apparently, they would like to make a Sparks grant, and we need to have a resolution in place to do so. I don't know what Heidi's schedule is, whether or not she'll be back on the 30th. But just in case she isn't, should we just set a special meeting to discuss what PrAC wants? We can, this really doesn't make sense to me, but we can call a special meeting and not all the board members have to be present, but we can't add something to a special meeting we've already set up. You know, I mean, that's the
There's
law.
not- Yeah, I know, no point
So
thinking about it. It is what
Right.
it is.
it is what it is. They've outlined 3 potential projects: BCNA, Lossy Trail, High Prairie Park, and Whitewater Park Beach.
I guess I'm not sure why we can't modify an agenda for a meeting. That board member that's not present today is going to have notice because the meeting will have to be renoticed with the additional agenda item. It's when you're at a meeting and the agenda for a special meeting has already been set that you can't add another agenda item because a board member is absent, because they have no notice on that date that you are, that, you know, that's to prevent something from getting added without their knowledge. But I don't understand the rules or the Open Meetings Act to mean that we can't add something to a future agenda, even though it is a special meeting, and that meeting would be renoticed, and then that board member would have notice that that is an agenda item. I don't understand that, the Open Meetings Act, to be that strict, that we can't add something to the 11:30 agenda now, despite the fact that there's one board member missing today. It will be noticed, what's today, the 17th? I mean, it's almost, what's that, 13 days? It can be renoticed today, and they would have all kinds of notice that that's an agenda item for that meeting.
It's up to the board. I mean, that's certainly a great idea.
I don't have a problem with adding Sparks grant to consideration to the 11:30 agenda.
Board, Don?
I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of that. I think the conversation on the meeting on the 30th is about budgets. I don't think that, I think it's germane to that topic.
Does it fit in their timeline for the Sparks grant?
12/19 is the date. Apparently that the request has to be in. So it's cutting it close, but it's helpful.
But they can have it go, they can have it ready.
To be honest, I don't see how I could schedule a meeting sooner than the 30th anyway.
Oh, no.
On my calendar.
no.
So, I mean, we already have the
No.
30th locked down. If if we can revise, procedurally, I don't know if we can just revise and repost, to your point, Cheryl, or as a formality, does the meeting have to be, canceled and reissued with a different
No,
agenda?
we
or
would just
or
revise the,
So,
a revised meeting notice would be posted and it would just show an additional agenda item.
yeah, I mean, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
right,
mean, so,
right.
And my thought was we just start another meeting at 9:30 if it was going to be an issue on the same day.
sure, whatever
You know.
works. But I think to move those Sparks grants along, if they have that December 19th deadline, I would like to get that out there and encourage that. So,
So let Melissa know that it'll be on the 11:30 agenda
Okay.
and they can get started on getting those grants all together so that they're
Yeah.
ready to go.
Right.
yeah,
I think it's great that they're actually motivated to go after these grants
Mhm.
for things that need to be done.
I echo that.
And Sparks even applies to us, I think, at the board level. I don't think it has to be just recreation stuff. So,
No, that's for outdoor recreation.
is it
according
just
to
for
this
outdoor
webinar,
recreation?
yeah.
Well, we had kicked
It's
around
outdoor
pit toilets,
recreation.
didn't we? Wasn't that kind of an idea of some of the Spark monies?
Well, there's lots of things,
So,
but
But
I
that
think
would
they
fall
have
under
narrowed
the-
down what they would like to submit. That they feel they could be ready to submit on December 19th or before.
Okay.
okay,
So Cheryl, will you get a revised notice out?
Yep,
And I think I sent a pre-budget out or a pre-packet out to everybody. And I was actually gonna post the 11:30 agenda yesterday, but I did withhold doing that until we came to this conclusion. So for those board members who have that preliminary packet out there, I'm gonna issue a revised, I won't issue a revised packet. I'm just going to update the one you already have in your files.
Okay.
Okay,
So get rid of that one and you're gonna send me another one.
basically, I'm just, yeah, I would say get rid of that one and is that good with everybody?
fine by me.
Cheryl?
sure.
Okay. And really, I think we can use the same Zoom notice, right?
Yeah, that
Me-
hasn't changed.
Yep, that won't change. Okay. Anything else? Second public comment? Anybody here in the room wishing to make a public comment? Anyone on Zoom wishing to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Use the raise your hand function and we will call on you. Hi, Melissa.
Hey, guys. Thank you for agreeing to add that to the November 30th. So I wanted to let you know I was on a meeting. I was able to catch a bit of today. So I appreciate that. And yeah, I'll look forward to trying to get some stuff together and we'll start working towards the grant submission. So Cheryl, on that note, I think you and I will probably need to discuss gaining access to start the process in the MI grants and stuff like that to wrap our heads around exactly what the content input needs to be
Sure.
when you have a chance. But otherwise, that's it. Thank you.
Seeing no one else. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion made second and further discussion. Roll call when ready.
Ross, yes, Valmuth is absent. Glenn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
10:15.